The hidden cost of pleasing people. Have you ever caught yourself agreeing to something you didn't want just to avoid conflict? Or biting your tongue, even when every cell in your body screamed to speak up? If so, you're not alone. In fact, you might be one of the millions unknowingly trapped in the exhausting loop of people-pleasing. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, didn't just study the mind, he studied the soul. He believed that many of our emotional struggles come from living a life disconnected from who we truly are. And nothing disconnects us faster than trying to become what everyone else expects us to be. This video isn't just about psychology, it's about freedom. It's about understanding why we bend ourselves into shapes for others, and how to finally step into the bold, raw truth of who we are. Because once you see the truth about people-pleasing, you can never unsee it. 1. The persona. The mask we mistake for ourselves. Jung introduced the concept of the persona, a social mask each of us wears to function in the world. It's the version of you that smiles at your boss when you're frustrated, agrees with your partner to keep the peace, or holds back your opinions to avoid judgment. The persona isn't necessarily fake, it's just incomplete. We create personas because we want to belong. It's a survival mechanism. But the danger arises when we start identifying more with the mask than the face beneath it. When this happens, we lose sight of who we really are. We become hollow actors in our own lives, performing instead of living. Over time, this disconnect causes a deep inner conflict. You might feel anxiety, emptiness, or even burnout without knowing why. It's the soul's quiet rebellion against the mask. And it's often the first sign that your authentic self is asking to be seen. 2. The shadow, reclaiming what you repressed. While the persona is what we show the world, the shadow is what we hide from it. According to Jung, the shadow contains all the parts of ourselves we were taught to suppress. Our anger, ambition, sexuality, selfishness, even our power. But these qualities don't disappear. They go underground, and they leak out in passive aggression, resentment, or depression. Here's the paradox. Your shadow isn't something to destroy. It's something to integrate. True self-awareness doesn't come from being nice or good. It comes from owning your wholeness. That includes the parts that make you uncomfortable. The more you deny your shadow, the more it controls you from the unconscious. But when you bring it into the light, when you own your truth, you become powerful, grounded, and unshakably real. And this is the beginning of true self-respect. 3. The roots of people-pleasing childhood programming. Most people-pleasers didn't choose that role, they inherited it. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, based on behavior, performance, or obedience, you likely learned to prioritize others' needs over your own. You became hyper-attuned to others' emotions and disconnected from your own. Children are incredibly adaptive. If being quiet, helpful, or agreeable earned approval, then that's what we become. But what helped us survive childhood can become our prison in adulthood. We end up in relationships, jobs, and social circles where we're liked, but not truly seen. Carl Jung believed that healing means remembering the lost parts of yourself. To remember literally means to bring the dismembered back into unity. That's what healing your people-pleasing pattern is really about. Giving yourself permission to take up space, speak your truth, and no longer shrink to make others comfortable. 4. Individuation, the journey back to you. Jung called the process of becoming whole individuation. This doesn't mean becoming isolated or selfish. It means becoming yourself with a capital S. Not what your parents wanted, not what society demanded, but who you truly are when no one is watching. This journey isn't easy. It often begins with discomfort, realizing that some relationships may fade, some people might not like the real you, and some parts of your life were built on pretending. But on the other side of that discomfort is liberation, real joy, real belonging. Individuation is about wholeness, not perfection. You're not meant to be flawless, you're meant to be real. Every step you take toward your true self makes the world a little less fake. And that's a revolution. 5. The power of saying no. One of the first acts of reclaiming yourself is learning to say no. Not rudely, not with aggression, but with clarity, with dignity. No is a boundary, and boundaries are the language of self-love. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you betray yourself. It might feel easier in the moment, but the long-term cost is heavy. Resentment, burnout, disconnection. Saying no is hard because we fear rejection. But here's the truth. If someone only loves the version of you that always says yes, they don't love you. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius taught that living in alignment with your inner values is more important than being approved by others. When you say no from integrity, you say yes to your peace. You stop living by obligation and start living by intention. 6. Returning home to the self. Returning home to the self is not about going backward, it's about going inward. Carl Jung believed that the core of human suffering comes from self-alienation. When we live according to roles, expectations, and external validation, we slowly drift from the truth of who we are. Over time, we might become strangers to ourselves. We forget our passions. We dismiss our needs. We silence our intuition. But the call to return always remains, whispering through discomfort, anxiety, or a sense that something's missing. This process is often subtle. It doesn't begin with grand gestures or dramatic changes. It begins in quiet moments. Sitting alone without distraction, reflecting on the parts of yourself you've ignored. Asking questions like, who am I without their approval? What do I value when no one is watching? What would I do if I weren't afraid of being judged? These aren't just self-help cliches. They're the gateway to individuation. Because before you can be real with the world, you have to be real with yourself. To Jung, returning to the self meant facing the unconscious, bringing what is hidden into the light. That includes your wounds, your suppressed desires, your buried creativity, and your unlived life. It's a sacred act of integration. And this is where many people get stuck. They think awakening should feel blissful. But the truth is, coming home to the self can feel uncomfortable, even painful at times. Because you're shedding everything that was never truly yours. Roles, personas, fake friendships, superficial goals. But in that shedding, you finally feel light. For the first time, you're no longer a reflection of others. You become whole, not because you're perfect, but because you're finally real. Conclusion. The soul's quiet rebellion. Carl Jung believed that the greatest danger to our soul is not evil, but inauthenticity. Living a life that isn't truly yours is a slow form of self-abandonment, but it's never too late to return. Never too late to take off the mask, to speak your truth, to finally, unapologetically be you. So if something in your chest stirred while watching this, don't ignore it. That's your soul knocking, asking you to come back, to stop pleasing and start living. If you found this valuable, subscribe for more deep dives into Jung, philosophy, and the psychology of real transformation. This is more than a video. It's a mirror. And the reflection is yours.